let's look at failure, because everyone is good at certain things and achieves certain successes, and not so good at others and experiences various failures. So you don't want to learn from someone in an area that they're incompetent. And so let's look at some of my incompetencies. I've hired well over 200 employees in multiple countries and in different states. I've never once found someone that I could delegate the business to. A classic experience, I've noticed that about 90% of employees do not have an eye for symmetry and grade. They say this work is done. I glance at it, and without a level, I can tell it's half an inch off or it's a quarter inch off here or there. Most people don't seem to have that talent. And so if I'm not there to prompt that, the work quality suffers. That's one thing. Another is, bid efficiency. That's taking way too slow. We need to develop a new technique for doing that. There's got to be one. Let's explore that. I don't find that to be a common talent. Understanding what is and is not important on a job. Sometimes I'll find a crew agonizing over one little instruction that I gave them that is no big deal and ignoring something that's quite a big deal. So that sense of proportionality, a high sense of aesthetic, an ability to instill trust in the client. I've not been able to transfer that to any crew member. And so basically the business doesn't exist without me at some level. Now, I haven't even gotten to the point where I could take a year to travel the world and video conference, because the aesthetics, I need to be in the space in order to know what needs to change and what's okay and what isn't. And I haven't been able to find a replacement for that. So I can travel up to 6 months of the year and but work stops in that period. So I do that by making, more than $120,000 in 6 months in net revenue, which is my lifestyle budget. And then, doing what I want in the other 6 months. And the good news is, because that I aspect can be supplied an hour a day. When I say I work 6 months and take 6 months off, I'm not talking about working 10-hour days for 6 months the way I did for a period of my career. There was a time when 8 to 10-hour days was the norm for almost a decade, in the 20 to 30 period. But in my age group, when I was 20 to 30. But now I'm needed 1, 2, 3, at most 4 hours a day. So I'm able to work, it is, I would say, an average of running the entire company in all the various aspects, 3 hours a day, 6 months of the year. And so that's, first we take my lifestyle before, of working 10-hour days with no vacations for a decade, and cut that in half. So then, we're taking 6 months off. And then we take 10-hour days and break it down to 3. So I've been able to free up 600% more time, basically, by cutting 5/6 of the time I used to spend, dedicated to the business, in doing what I want to do. So that's success for my particular definition of success. The other thing that I haven't been able to do is gain patience for incompetence. I get irritated every time a crew member is doing something incompetently. That's so easy to do. Why aren't you paying attention? So I get annoyed repeatedly. I would say that I spend about an hour on a job site daily, is a typical routine in that 6 months that I'm working. And 80% of it is annoyance. Why isn't that done the way I mentioned on my video yesterday? Why isn't this done? I said do it in this radius. You've done it in this radius. What are you thinking? I don't enjoy that. The crew doesn't enjoy that. And it's my 1 hour a day of annoyance because it's basically compressing everything that goes wrong into about an hour a day because I get to see all the mistakes. Now, thankfully, 80% of the job happens perfectly. So I'm dealing with the 20% that's a little bit off to a lot off and correcting it in that hour. But it's no fun, and I don't know what to do about it. I have found that fining crew members eases that. So agreeing on a penalty code eases that because it motivates the crew, and I get that. It speeds up the change in their growth, and I get that. And we're sharing in the cost. What irritates me so much is the idea that they're not interested because they're not paying the price of incompetence. They're getting paid the same amount per hour. If anything, it's easier for them to be incompetent. Now, if I throw a $5 penalty, I found a piece of litter on the job site. Who dropped this here? Okay, $5. It's nothing in the scale of things. But it's a big thing to them. And lo and behold, I don't have to say that so often. So that's been a breakthrough. But, I feel a little cheap, doing that. I do not enjoy this, this aspect. And the only way around that is to do all the work myself, which then I'm very happy with it. But now I'm back to my 8, 9, 10-hour days. And so there's a trade-off between being able to travel 6 months of the year and work, often an hour a day. Sometimes I don't even go to the job site. I just wake up, write a few chapters in some book that I'm writing. It's wonderful. And I know that I'm paying a price to it in some area in the job site, but my standards are typically higher than the client. And so usually the client is saying, that looks wonderful. And I'm looking at it and saying, no, that's not quite right. So no success there. Because of these, this connection with me and the company, I also haven't created a saleable business because as soon as I disappear, there is not much of a company. And so I haven't done that. Now, I haven't in any way tried. I've actually actively tried to stay small and be more selective and have more freedom to pick clients I like working with as opposed to growing. And so it's not a failure in my book, but if you're trying to grow a big company, I have very little, stuff to teach you along those lines because I haven't done it. And when I've come close to it, meaning I think the most employees I've had at one time was probably 10 or 11 full-time employees. That was the most miserable time of my life, meaning all I did all day long was go back and forth from 1, 2, or 3 jobs and find all the problems that these crew had come up with and all the problems that these crew had come up with, and then back to this and all the problems these crew had come up with. And, that was my life. And I never got to do the excellent work myself because I was so busy figuring out everyone else's problems. And paying them to work highly inefficiently. So it wasn't even terribly profitable. And then rushing out to get work to keep them busy. And so anyway, no success in that domain. And there's probably other things as well that don't come to mind right now where I'm just not very good.